get that out of the way. I'm so excited here tonight. First off, PA now, why can't you just step out a little bit? This is a college money. This is college money here. Look at Mike here. Chuck, say hi. Wonderful man. I love you so much. So my college money. Go ahead and stand up. You are college money. Stand up. These are the guys that told me I was good when I wasn't. And that is incredibly important to me. My all-time mentor is stand up talk about it, bro. Treat people like first class all the time. And I try to do it. Really? But I hear a lot of talk. I remember meeting this guy right after he became the president of Lindenwood University. And I got on a plane to go back to New York where I live. And I told my wife, I'm going to be around Lindenwood a lot more. I love the direction of this university. She's like, why? I go, did you meet John Porter? The president of this university is dynamic, forward-thinking. I am a creative. He is a creative. We will kick around ideas. I love his passion for this university. I'm telling you right now, we would not be in here right now if he wasn't the president. So John Porter, stand up for a second. The president of Lindenwood University. I'm proud to call you a friend, and you tell everybody how great they do and how great their job. You do a great job. You do a great job. So, his leadership is why I'm here, and it's important to find good leadership. When I watched Cardinals, and I think of Cardinal baseball, I think of Dal Maxwell and Whitey Herzog, right? And they worked together well in the 80s. Then I think of Walt Jocketty and Tony La Russa. They had a good run, right? And look, 2013, Cardinals would go to the World Series. John Mozeliak and Mike Matheny had a good run. I want you to know Ali Marmol and Chaim Bloom on a different level. I want you to really understand they're great guys. They're cool, and they collaborate. This is a new era of Cardinal baseball, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm excited to bring them out. So without further ado, the president of baseball operations, Chaim Bloom, and the manager into his 5th year with the St. Louis Cardinals, Ali Marmol. Guys, come on out. Comment? So first off, Chaim, knowing that we needed to build some momentum for this event, did a solid. But he traded Nolan Arenado 2 days ago. Thank you for that. That was awesome. You were thinking of me when you made the deal with him.
You know, I did think of you at one point because the last time I saw you before tonight, was going on MLB Network at the winter meetings.
Yes.
And you kind of gave me a hard time about the whole thing. And you talking about finding a different fit here for the guy. And what do we got? When's this going to happen? Is it going to happen?
I'm known for giving people a hard time at the winter meetings. Yes.
You actually opened up with that, though.
What?
You opened up with that.
I did open up with that, yeah.
So it actually...
It wasn't personal. Here's why I do that. My role is to ask the question that all the fans want me to ask. So I have to get it out of the way because I know how you guys operate. You guys will talk on any answer. They'll talk for 90 seconds. They know we're running out of time on TV. So, hey, what do you think of Victor Scott? He'll talk for 2.5 minutes on that. And now you have no time left to ask the question you have to ask. So I have to get it out of the way. Throw the Band-Aid off.
I'm learning, so you get to know all the tricks.
Yes, that's one of the tricks. One of the tricks.
I was locked in enough that I didn't think of you while we were doing the deal. But after the deal was over, I was like, you know what, Amsinger's not going to do?
No, but you know, this is a bit of a town hall, and I want all of our fans here tonight to be ready later on, halfway through. I want you to ask these guys questions. So we have microphones that'll be a little later, and ask them anything you want. So you could be your best Greg Amsinger and ask about Nolan Arenado, if you choose to. But we're going to talk about that in much more. Ali, I hung out with you at the winter meetings, and let me just tell you, Ali Marmol is the new era manager of Major League Baseball. You know why? Ali is cool. He shows up at the bar in Orlando, and he's wearing this like cool jacket and a cool t-shirt, jeans, and he's got a hat on backwards. And I'm like, bro, you look like you could be in a boy band. And what I've come to learn, this is a long question, but it's a good one. What I've come to learn, the other guy that's at the bar with me is John Schneider. And you two are master communicators to your players. Do you find that is of the pecking order of roles you have as manager? That is the number one aspect of your job.
Yeah, it's not close. You're managing people, and you better communicate clearly. You have to be honest. I know you opened up with Albert. My first year managing, I had the luxury of managing him and Yadi and Wayno, man, and you had to be so clear and transparent and honest with those guys, or you just lose them immediately. They've been through it. They know when you're trying to pull something on them. So I learned a lot from them, and being able to just sit and have tough conversations, but just be yourself. And to your point, showing up to the bar and just hanging out with you, like, it's easier to operate when you can just be yourself. And some people are going to like it, some people aren't. But communicating with the players is definitely one of the most important things.
So when you had an opportunity, and this is, it could be an awkward question, but that's kind of what I do. You could have easily, once you took over as president of baseball operations, made a switch manager. And no one would have thought that was groundbreaking. It happens all the time in the industry. You chose not to. You were in the organization for 2 years watching him work. What was it about Ali that made you go, you know what, we're good here?
This is going to be good.
No, I want you to say, I want you to be,
Go ahead.
We're going to be here in a minute.
this is the kind of, I call this good TV. This is good TV.
Well, like you said, I had the chance to be here to get to know him. And, during that time, obviously I was in a different seat, right? It's kind of unique. Like, I joke that I had the weirdest job in baseball. I certainly had a job in baseball this past year that nobody else had. Very unique. But it allowed me to get the chance to get to know people. And I wanted to do it in a way where I was making life easier, not harder. I wanted to be supportive and not, have Ali or anybody feel like, who's my boss, who do I have to please here, but just to get to know people as people. So I had the luxury of being able to do that. Really enjoyed the relationship, the conversation, the vibe. Definitely knew that we were aligned in terms of where the organization had to go and how we had to get there. So that obviously is really important. If you're not on the same page, it's not going to work. But also, I got a chance to see some of that element up close. And you think about this job. It's not a job I've done, but I've been around a lot of people who have done it. It really boils down to me to leadership and partnership. Those are kind of the two aspects. Leading the group and then being a partner with the front office for the organization to get where we want. Yeah. And I got to see how our group responded to it, and it's good. You talked about this just now, on some basic level, we want to see that the manager has a room, and he does. And then partnership is something you build over time. But I felt that we were going to be able to do it, and that it was going to work. And I was excited to do it. And when we talk about, we're going to get into it, but obviously we're not in a situation where we want to be. We got some work to do, and getting there is not necessarily going to be easy. It's going to be a little different. There has been, and there's going to be change in the organization. And you have someone in this critical role as a partner that sees both where we are and where we need to be the same as you, and can work with you and bring some things that you can't to help the organization get there. And that's what I feel we have.
What was going through your mind in that year before he takes over, halfway through? He's eventually going to be the guy. When did the conversation start? Were you worried?
No, and I would say because of the way he handled it from the very beginning. Heim was intentional about how he communicated and the role that he was stepping into, but still respectful to the role he currently had, right? So I remember spring training, he comes into the office, he's like, hey, you think the other managers have already had 2 presidents? Which just broke the ice a little bit as to but then we talked about, hey man, here's how I want to communicate. throughout the year, I want to make sure that there's clear lines of communication of what Mo is handling, what I'm handling, and it worked really well. But it allowed for a really genuine way of starting the relationship as to him being to ask me anything, and I felt like I can answer it honestly. And you have enough of those conversations, and you don't have to agree on everything, but each side kind of hears kind of where we're coming from. It was, you start to build that trust, and like he said, like a partnership, it takes time, and you build that over time, but because of the way he handled some of the initial conversations, it made it easy to start to build that.
I want to ask you a question. I'll give you time to think about it. I'm going to tell a quick story. I want an example of a human magic moment that you had with a player where you didn't go with the numbers per se, but you went with your gut. But anyway, okay, while you think about that, I was on the field doing a World Series celebration show. The Rangers just won the World Series. I'm on with Albert Pujols and Dan Plesac. And Chris Young, the president of baseball operations, a former pitcher, comes up on the set. And Albert turns to him, congratulates him, and says, "Why was Bruce Bochy the first manager, or the first person you hired right when you got the job? Why was he the first target?" Chris Young looks at Albert and goes, "You have everything to do with this." Albert has no idea what he's talking about. This is live on the air, by the way. Chris Young goes, "Postseason, I'm pitching for the Padres. It's a playoff game." Albert hit a home run in his first at bat, a double off the wall, bullet off the wall, bases loaded, 4-3. Albert's coming up next. Here comes Bruce Bochy, managing the San Diego Padres. Chris Young's handing the ball to Bruce Bochy. Bochy goes, "No, keep it. We wouldn't be here today without you. There's no way this dude, I don't care how great he is going to get you a third time. You're going to get it." He struck out Albert Pujols. Chris Young never forgot that. He understood the power and the magnitude of leadership, and that is why he hired Bruce Bochy immediately when he got the job. So do you have any story like that with a young player where you went with your gut, or is the gut alive and well in baseball?
It's definitely alive and well, and I think there's a misconception as to organizations strictly going by numbers. You have to have a feel. You're managing humans. You have to have a feel of looking someone in the eye and knowing what they're capable of doing and not capable of doing, and how they handle certain situations. The first one that comes to mind actually involves a young player and an older player, and Albert's in the story as well. We are in Arizona. We are down. It's early in the game. Albert's 2 for 2 with 2 homers. And we're facing a lefty, and he's popped him twice. He comes up for his third at bat, and we have runners on. We're down, and they bring in Melanson, righty. And Albert's struggling against righties during this time of year. It sounds like stupid now, but during that time of the year, it wasn't good. And Albert's on deck. They go to the reliever, and I'm sitting there, and the young player at the time, you have Gorman on the bench. That's supposed to be good against righties, and Albert's not good against righties, and I'm sitting there, AP's 2 for 2 with 2 homers. First year man, and I'm going, dear God. And he looks over at me, and I call him back, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna pinch hit for you right here." And he immediately, rather than strangling me, he looked at Gorman, and he said, "All right, here's what this guy's gonna try to do to you. Make sure you're ready for this," and just gives him the full scout report, which speaks to who he is.
No doubt.
He sits on the bench, he puts his helmet down, he's standing right next to me when this happens, and the whole time I'm praying, "Dear God, let him get it." And sure enough, Gorman drives those runs in. Albert's the loudest one cheering. The moment worked, but it's one of those where, you have to be able to trust the combination of those things. Like, Albert, during that time, as confident as he is, knew, man, like, I'm killing lefties, but I am having trouble picking up righties. I am having trouble staying on him. Gorman was feeling pretty good about where he was. So it's a balance for sure.
This is his 5th year. He's entering his 5th year as manager. He's not even 40 years old yet. I can't, both of you guys have a similar kind of start to the current jobs that you have. And I'll tell you why I think that way. Ali, 35, year 1 as manager, has Arenado, Goldie, Yachty, Bueno, Albert. 5 Hall of Famers. Good luck, 35-year-old rookie manager. All right, they had a great year. There's an Albert story, another Albert story connected to him that he won't tell. But Albert Pujols has told me he was going to retire after the first half. He was gonna walk away from baseball. And he came back to St. Louis that last year because he was playing so poorly. This dude sat him down and talked a 42-year-old future first ballot Hall of Famer into staying. True? Yes, he'll admit that. But think about that conversation. One of the greatest players of all time saying, I don't have any more left. I'm done. 35-year-old rookie manager going, no, we need you. You're great. And he ended up being the best player on the team offensively in the second half.
He had to finish well, man. You think about what he means to this city, and that season was more than just about AP. And the conversation was super simple. It was just convincing him that he needed to finish well. And I remember he came in right before batting practice, and I looked at the clock. We got about 5-7 minutes before BP starts, and he starts talking, and I knew this was going to be more than a 5-minute conversation. So I closed the door, and we missed all of batting practice, and we sit there, and we talked through the whole situation, man. And I'm glad it worked out the way it did, because that's a special year. And for him to finish the way, and to be able to, I mean, we were sitting there at that dinner at his event the other day, and just being able to hear him tell the stories of what that season meant to him, and being able to finish well and go out the way he wanted to is, gosh darn, that's pretty darn.
It's a ton of pressure on that. Those 5 guys, when Nolan went to the trade to say, when Nolan got traded, he posted a picture. They're in the clubhouse celebrating, they got their goggles on, and it's all 5 of those guys. Wayne, Yachty, Goldie, Arenado, Albert. What a movie season that was. An incredible thing. But you had to deal with all of those. I mean, look, when you're a great baseball player, you have an ego. When you're a TV host, it'll be never. You have an ego. These guys deal with egos. He dealt with a lot of egos that year. That was a tough spot for a rookie manager. When you're a young GM of the Boston Red Sox, and they give you a laundry list of things that you have to do right when you start, trading Mookie Betts sucks. That's a terrible first thing you got to do. That is a really bad job. I used to hate when my mom and dad were like, you got to do the dishes. You're going to do the dishes. Like, can't imagine me behind the room. I'm so fired up. I'm the GM of the Red Sox. Trade Mookie Betts.
Doing the dishes is not exactly what there were some other things on that list that were more enjoyable than that.
Yeah.
But, obviously, there's not a single one of these jobs that's easy or perfect. That's just the way it is. It's not how life is. There's so many things in baseball that there are things in life. And, that's just where the organization was. And that was part of what it meant to step into that seat at that point in time. Past that, there was a course you could chart to getting the organization back where it needed to be.
But I gotta imagine when you knew that was the direction. And that media market is, people talk about New York. I think Boston looks for the negative more than even in New York.
I'll tell you what, I think people don't believe me when I say I love doing that job, but I did. Just the intensity of it, how much it matters. It's incredibly motivating. And I got to taste a little bit of it in 21. We almost got to the World Series a year after doing that. Had this kind of magical run. We obviously couldn't finish it off, but you get to feel what it feels like to win in a baseball town. Like, it's intoxicating. It's worth it. It's worth what's on the other side of it is worth it. But you can't really think about those things. Like I knew obviously you do that. Your name's on that forever. That's going to be on my gravestone.
I don't think so. After you win like 4 World Series titles with the Cardinals, no one will forget. They were going to forget.
But again, you have to focus on the task at hand. You got to do what you got to do. You can't think about those things. You get in trouble in this game. You get in trouble in any of these types of jobs when you start thinking about yourself instead of thinking about the mission. And you got to get over yourself. Like this game is really good at making people get over themselves. It will continually break you down until you do that.
Yeah.
But it's when you do that, and if you can do that and stay there, that's when you have a chance to accomplish some great things because it's not about you, it becomes about the mission, about what we can do together. And part of what comes with that job, with this job, and his job is the goal of trying to get a lot of people on that same page. And that's been really cool things.
You really are a collaborator. From all the people that I know that know you, you like other voices in the room. You like bouncing ideas off. And I look at my job the same way. I think like a producer when I get ready for the show. And if I just worry about my job singularly, the show isn't as good. That said, when you're collaborating, and it's the last year of John Mozeliak's tenure, how did the trade deadline work? How did the draft work? You're about to take over, and how did you collaborate there? It's John Mozeliak, I think I'm going to trade a couple prospects for this guy because we're buyers, and you go, oh, I don't think we should do that. Like, how did that work?
It's actually pretty straightforward and simple. I guess there were paths that could have gone where it might have been weird, but it really wasn't. I mean, you take those in the sequence that they happen, like the draft. Again, kind of similar conversations to what I had with you. Flo, Randy Flores, who runs our draft. I wanted to make sure to break the ice with him and say, listen, like, you do not have to please me. Like, I'm here for you. I'll be a resource for you. If you want my opinion, I'm happy to give it. But this is your show. And, for that matter, I believe in doing that regardless of that situation. Like, I think at the end of the day, you have to let people do their jobs. Obviously, you have the right, if you think something's really going off the rails in one of these jobs, to override it. There is a sounding board. Your job is to help people get to that best version of themselves. But I just wanted to make sure he knew, because that job is really hard when you have one boss. And just wanted to make sure that he knew that I'm not going to make life harder for him by getting out of my lane. And it worked out just fine. Again, so happened. My goal, I told Ollie that we were having those conversations at the beginning of last year. Like, my goal for this year is, if I disagree with something that Mo does, I hope we never know. I felt that way about what we were doing at the draft, and it so happened I was really happy with what we did. With the options available to us at that pick, I liked the choices we made. I guess again, you talk about a situation, maybe it could have gone differently.
You happen to agree.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, Flo still asked my opinion. He still wanted to know what I thought. And for that matter, when I was talking to Mo was a scouting director, right? Mo drafted him. So he's been in that chair. I've done a number of different jobs in baseball. That's not one that I've done. We talked about this a little bit when we were getting to know each other about your philosophy in that chair as a GM or a president of baseball ops. How do you feel about what you delegate to your scouting director? We were both aligned. And obviously, your goal, I believe your goal in this type of seat is to supervise that position at a high level. But it's more about making sure you feel the person is a good process to make decisions, that they're using the right information, that they're using it the right way. But if the person in that job, the decision has to be theirs. Otherwise, the whole thing doesn't work. And so I felt that way about that. And then at the draft, that was going to be Mo's call, along with, of course, ownership, weighs in on that. Again,
I don't know if I agree with that. I as someone that, why would it be, and I'm fine, I'll leave doors with stud. But I don't understand, we know he's not going to be in the organization. So why is he deciding who's getting drafted in the first round?
Well, sorry, I made this phone. I meant the trade deadline was going to be this. The draft, that was Flo.
Flo, okay, good. All right, now I'm listening.
Yeah.
All right. So he stepped away from that.
Well, he was involved in the same way that he usually is, where he's going to supervise, he will express his opinion,
right.
But he's going to let the scouting director make the pick, because that's why you have the person in that chair. And frankly, they know and they should know the player pool better than you do. Sometimes there's some philosophical things that maybe you have to iron out, but you should also iron those out well in advance before it gets down to a particular.
When negotiating with the agent,
yeah,
right? Over slots.
Yeah, there is some of that. Sometimes when you get into the draft, the way that the draft works, it really encourages clubs and agents to really just figure out what the price is going to be in advance, what the signability is, so to speak.
Right.
And oftentimes, just because this is what we do all the time, depending on who reps the player, the GM, the president, might end up on the phone. And frankly, I've been in situations where, especially as you get deeper in the draft, and there's not as much time between picks, this could even happen. I mean, there was a year. I don't want to say which, because people probably shouldn't know, but there was a year in my career where it was coming up to a first-round pick, and we literally had 3 players in play. We had 3 different people on the phone with all the agents. So you're a member of the team at that point, regardless of what your title is. You're a member of the team, and you're there to help. So If I happen to have the agent relationship, then I'll get on the phone with that agent, but someone else might for a different player because the relationship's there, because we got to do two different things at once. If you want to get to the point where you have a really high functioning operation, you have to leverage multiple people because you're going to have to be able to do multiple things at the same time.
Right, and Ali, from your perspective, you have your current boss in John Mozeliak, and you know you have your future boss in Hein Bloom. How was that dynamic in John's last year?
I can say that it didn't come up throughout the whole year where I felt divided in how I needed to communicate or what I needed to communicate or who to listen to. There was like, when I say super clear line of communication, like it never crossed. I'm not saying that because we're on stage in front of people. Like I'm being completely honest. Like there was never a situation where I was sitting at my desk going, gosh, like they're saying different things, I don't know what to do. It didn't come up once, and it speaks to both people as far as like they understood their roles and how difficult it could be on me if that was the case. And when I say it didn't come up once, it just didn't. So I'm thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it was a seamless transition to Hein, who since has fleeced the Red Sox of all of the prospects. I mean, listen, I used to work in produce at Dearborn's. It was a produce company. And the mothers would come shopping. They were the nicest to me, and they would go, Gregory, where are the best tomatoes? Because, there's a lot of tomatoes, but I know where the fresh ones are. So I would show them the non-bruised tomatoes. And my boss got wind of this. I'm not supposed to do this. I was supposed to put the old inventory at the top, right? So my boss reprimanded me. He knows where all the fresh tomatoes are in the Boston Red Sox farm system. And I am amazed by this. People ask me, Nolan Arenado is going to get traded. The Red Sox are in the mix because they didn't get. There's no way the Red Sox are going to make another deal with you. They just can't. They're playing with fire. They can't give that many prospects to you. In 3 years, the entire starting rotation of the St. Louis Cardinals could be former Boston Red Sox.
Do you think they really care?
The optics of that, right? Terrible.
Yes, I don't know.
Well, you guys keep score, don't you? Who wins a trade? Who loses a trade? You do, right? So if I know you know all of my prospects like the back of your hand.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's what I will say. 2 years is a long time. Like, we've gotten, 6 players from them? Like, I overlap. The only one I actually overlapped on was Hein.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. Now, we had done a lot of work on fits at the 23 deadline. There was like a framework of a deal we talked about with the Yankees that actually was for Verdugo, and that ended up being the deal in the offseason. Where we had done some homework on Fitz, who at the time was, we liked him based on the work we had done a little bit more than the public rankings. Just thought this is a guy here we might be able to snag and deal with him. Thought he had a chance to start in the big leagues. Deal ends up not coming together. So when he did get traded there, I figured there was a chance he might be in there, in that deal. So partial credit, I guess I'd done some work on him, but again, that was 2 years ago. A lot changes since then. You have to get current. In fact, the mistake you can make is relying too much on what you knew and ignoring all the things that had changed
That is a good point.
since then.
Yep.
And, one of the things that I view as a big part of my job here is making sure we are building up our front office such that I was really proud of where we got our acquisition process to by the end of my time at the Red Sox. Would have liked to have been able to leverage that group a little more.
Yeah, sure.
It took us a while to build what I thought was really like a top tier acquisition team. The organization I grew up in, we had to make our hay in trades. That was how we were going to have to meet people and feel confident about our ability to do it, to understand other organizations' players better than they understood their own. And for as much as we obviously were working around some financial constraints with Major League Baseball, we always were able to put resources into doing that, whether it was having a lot of scouts out there, or just having a lot of people slicing and dicing the information, and holding ourselves to a really high standard as to how we did that. So when I got to the Red Sox, I said, this is capacity we have to build here. And by the end, I thought, okay, we can now start identifying these people. And I think you look look at some of the work that's happened since, like Fajardo, the kid we got with Hunter in the deal for Wilson, that was someone they snagged, like one of those roster clearing DFA style trades from the White Sox, and they both identified a good raw talent. And then in development, they got them a lot better to where they were able to use them as a key piece in the trade for an established player. You know, those are the types of things I'm thinking about us needing to build here to really level up here. And so my focus was less on what I knew 2 years ago on the Red Sox prospects and more about how do we work together as a team with the people we have here, whether they're people that have been here or people that we've brought in since I got here, in looking at a trade to make sure we're picking the right guys.
It's very awkward when everyone knows you have to trade a player. You lose leverage, right? So everyone knows, the industry knew that these guys got to get rid. What's even weirder is that you're the guy they text, right? So you're texting with Nolan Arenado, you're texting with Sonny Gray. They're not texting you, I'm assuming, right?
No, there's a little more contact than you might think. It
Really?
depends on the situation.
Oh, okay, okay.
I believe in just being very available and accessible to guys.
Okay, that's great.
You know, that's part of, especially being new to the role. I thought that was one of the advantages of this past year was just trying to get to know the players a little bit, both because you learn some things about them, but mainly because I want to take the mystery out of talking to me. Now, I understand, like, we're not going to be best friends because we have different jobs to do. Like, that's just the nature of it. Like, but this game's hard enough without adding that additional stress. And so it shouldn't be a hard thing for a player to come up and ask a tough question, whether it's about themselves, whether it's about where the team is going. You know, still when you get into these situations, especially in the off season, you know, guys are doing their own thing. And you sometimes want to find out, you know, Nolan was a key example, because obviously that one, you know, you talk about a player that everybody knew that we were going to trade. Part of the reason I was so forward about it publicly was because everybody already knew, right? This had been going on for a year plus.
He said goodbye. I was at Blue Stadium and he waved to me goodbye as he walked into the dugout. You took him out of the game. What inning was that? Fourth inning, something like that? First inning, that's right. Yeah, I mean, that's why. That was your plan all along? Did you tell him you were going to do that?
Yeah, so he wasn't in the lineup initially, and then he was in the weight room, and I walked up and I said, hey man, in case this goes down the way we think it's going to, I think we should create a moment for the fans to really show you the appreciation. You've done a lot for the city, you've done a lot for the team, so what if I actually tell you the lineup? And before we throw out the first pitch, I go and get you, and he hadn't warmed up, taking a swing or anything. I was like, I promise you won't have to make a throw, nothing. So it worked out really well, but I just wanted to create a moment for him to be appreciated, because the way he played in the city, this is a guy that gives you everything.
Yes, it was amazing, amazing play. Amazing play. And you know, I'm going to say something that I think is incredibly important for all of you sitting in here. If you bought a ticket to come here tonight, you are hardcore. You love the Cardinals, right? And we appreciate you, and we need you to be the ambassadors. We need something from you. We need you to talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues, and tell them we need to go to a baseball game. We have to support the Cardinals. I'm going to tell you why. I called Nolan Arenado. I texted Nolan Arenado throughout the entire moment of him being traded from the Colorado Rockies. He knew I was from St. Louis. He knows I love the city and I love the organization. And we had a friendship before he was ever traded. So I am talking to him. You got to wave it, man. There's no better place to play. The packed house every night. He was like, listen, bro, I never thought about it. Living in St. Louis, a West Coast guy. But yeah, it's awesome to go there and to see Busch Stadium packed every night. And I just kept selling him on the atmosphere. It's a playoff atmosphere every single day. And he did it. He waived his trade, no trade, and he became a St. Louis Cardinal. You have to understand something, folks. Lance Berkman had other short-term contract offers, very similar to when he got to St. Louis. Carlos Beltran, similar deals, okay? These players, the tiebreaker was you.
That's right.
You were the tiebreaker. I have so many colleagues at MLB Network, from Dan Plesac to Mike Lowell to Al Leiter, who have told me I've always wanted to be a Cardinal. Not because the jersey was cool, because all of you pack the house every night. It is a massively important thing to do, and it was an advantage that I don't want St. Louis to give away.
I don't think you can overstate what you're saying right now.
Thank you.
I really don't. Like, it might be one of the most important things that gets said all night. Because when, and I'll be very honest, I can't remember what city we were in, but I had a young player come up and say, man, I like when we play on the road more than at home.
That's heartbreaking.
I was like, gosh, darn it. That's the crappiest thing you want to hear out of a young player that's going to be here for a long time, right? So, and the reason was because of the frustration that's been created and what we've seen. For them to feel what it's truly like to play at Busch Stadium and just the energy and the uplifting feel that you get when you play home and this place is good, it's unmatched. And it's a reason why a lot of people want to play here, and when young players come through, they don't want to leave here. For that young core to feel that again might be one of the most important things ever.
Yes, and I say this all the time, the word love. Okay? I love the Cardinals. That's why I'm good at my job. Because I love baseball. And I fell in love with the Cardinals in the 80s, Whitey Ball, Ozzie Smith was my favorite player, Willie McGee, all of them, right? I love the Cardinals. If I lived here, I'd have season tickets and go to as many games as I could, right? That's me. I love them. I also love my children, okay? When my son goes, hey, Dad, you go to my basketball game? I'm not going to look at him. You've lost 3 out of the last 5 games. He would question whether or not I loved him. Right? I love my son. I'm going to the game no matter what. Right? I thought Geronimo Pena was going to be an MVP, and I know Randy Carricker probably agrees with me. I was obsessed with the Cardinals when they weren't winning games. So you have to ask yourself, I'm not asking you, because you are the Cardinals. Right? This is the OG crowd right here, okay? You have to ask your friends, do you love the Cardinals, or do you love just winning? You just like winning. Is that what you love? You just love winning. You love the Cardinals. You love the Cardinals. You're going to games. And as somebody that works in the front office, if your team's in the mix, right, and you're thinking, should we be a buyer? Should we be a seller? If it's a packed house, right around the trade deadline, that impacts your humanity in here compared to 12,000 people in the ballpark.
The reality of it is, in this business, sometimes that does move the needle for organizations. I remember there was a point. This is when I was with the Red Sox. You're dealing with a team, and they were kind of on the fringes of the playoff race. And what are they going to do? You know, are they buyers? Are they sellers? And this was in 21. We were kind of in the middle of a rebuild, and we were in first place. And so you're trying to figure out how to navigate that. Where you don't get
it was very tough.
You want to make the right additions without really derailing the project. Mitch good problem.
Yeah.
But talking to this club, saying they were kind of on the fringes of the race, and they said, I don't know that this is really our year, but man, people are packing this place every night, so ownership just wants us to add, and that does move the needle. Now, that having been said, I appreciate everything you're saying. I obviously hope that that's how people act. Like, I don't view it that way. I view it as we got to earn those butts in the seats. People have a lot of alternatives. That's how I.
So London has to earn whether or not hey, you got to win a couple games, London. I'm not going until I see win.
I just don't feel like we can act like people owe us anything. We got to.
From your perspective, I think that's exactly how you should say it. But as a hardcore, biased fan that I am, which I do hide, by the way, I think you do a great job of that hiding.
You're doing an awesome job of it tonight.
Well, only here. This was an era at MLB Network. I'm a Cub fan, maybe even more than they already. But from my perspective, that someone that has family, my gosh, I have a buddy that's not here tonight. But my freshman year at Lindenwood, we bought season tickets in the bleachers. We would go to Applebee's and eat all-you-can-eat wings. All you can eat ribs. Did they still have that on the menu, by the way? At Applebee's? But that's what we would eat right before the game. And then we would go there and, we'd sit in the bleachers, and we enjoyed every single day doing it. And it's just, to me, it's massively important. He's got a different job, but we should try as fans to sway him into being a buyer at the deadline. It's easier for him to not be a buyer when there are 12,000 people in the stands. So I'm talking about him like he's not here. But the goal is to pack it out and then make it difficult for him because we can't get enough of the Cardinals. It's a very important thing. We're minutes away from opening up. We got microphones out there, so if you want to show, someone can stand up and show. If you have any questions, just go get in line. Once I see you standing up, we'll get interactive. I want this to be a bit of a town hall and have you all have a say, ask questions to our two guests tonight. Which, by the way, I want to remind you, they are our guests. So if the question's a little aggressive,
No, let it eat. Let it eat.
I might step in.
You know where I grew up, right?
I know. I get it.
From Philly.
I'm trying to be a lovely host.
I have accepted that a lot of my professional life, unfortunately, is karmic payback for all of the things that I screamed from the stands at Veterans Stadium as a child. All of those hours I spent listening to sports talk radio and just loving all of that. I've accepted that the universe has decided to punish me for that in a very strange way. So it's okay.
Okay.
Whatever you got, it's fine.
We have many fan celebrities. I gotta tell us my favorite fan story. Joe Searles, can you say something? Joe Searles, if you wave your arms, where is Joe Searles? Oh, you're up here? Joe Searles is the best man at my wedding. Go up there. Best man at my wedding. Round of applause. I'm so married. We go to a Cardinals-Cubs game in Chicago, and we decide to be typical young idiot fans. So we hate our bodies. We had 3 buddies, 1 brother, 2 buddies. We ran out of paint. So what do? Like any smart young man, you go buy fingernail polish at Walgreens. So we painted. We had body paint. He got the fingernail polish. So we're baking in the sun. Thank God Gary Gaetti got a double to help us win the game. We had a police escort out of Wrigley Field. It was bad. We're in the right field bleachers. But my friend up here got sun poisoning. And we had to chisel the fingernail polish out of his back. But it was a blessing. Because now we tell everybody that he has a birthmark on his back that says Cubs suck. You're welcome, Joe. I mean, yeah, go, please go. All right, we have questions. Go right ahead, young lady on the left.
Probably makes it a little harder. It's never going to be an excuse. It can't be an excuse. I just don't. That is not a winning mindset to me for us to use that as an excuse ever. Again, it means we have to think about things a little bit differently, go about it a little bit differently. That is going to play into how we strategize and the things that we do, but it's not ever going to be an excuse that infects us. You're just not, it's hard to get where you want to go if you're focused more on the obstacles than the goals. So that's the first thing. It's a little unrelated to your question of, okay, what do we do about it? This one, I think I'm pretty fortunate that this is going to be settled at a higher pay grade than mine. Look, I think there's a lot of interesting ideas out there. I hope that, my hope is that the tone of the conversation, obviously, as we get close to bargaining and all that the tone stays positive, stays conversational, because these are things, it's going to take creativity to work them out to everybody's satisfaction. It is something that's obviously on our minds. You see it whether it's in signings, whether it's in things organizations can do behind the scenes, that in some sense just does create a real balance. You want this to be something, as much as you can in any of our jobs, you want to feel like your success is going to be determined on things you control. It's going to be determined by your hard work and your ingenuity and the process that you have in place, and that you're not battling those obstacles. So yeah, I do think we should, as people who love baseball, we should be invested in solutions for these that make everybody happy, that satisfy everybody. We have the best game on earth. The game is in so many ways in a great spot. Like, I think the pitch clock is the best thing that's happened in baseball in my lifetime, probably.
I agree with that.
And when people are engaged in finding good solutions, we can get to those as long as everybody stays positive, is goal-oriented, is focused on where we need to go. I certainly wouldn't sit here and tell you that I have all or even any of the answers to that, but I do think it's something that I hope a lot of the bright minds around our game, owners, players, commissioner's office, people in our seats, that we can be engaged on this and all have a seat at the table and try to figure out how to make this something that's going to help the game grow in every moment and not just in a few months.
I will say this as broadcaster, a national perspective, it was newsworthy to see Tucker get a 4-year deal. The AAV was obviously record-breaking. Bo Bichette, 3-year deal. Yeah, they go to the Dodgers, they go to the Mets, those are the biggest payrolls in baseball. But the term being shorter helps markets like St. Louis. When the big free agents are on a shorter term, that is a sandbox that you can dream of playing. But Juan Soto, $765 million deal, that is not a sandbox St. Louis is ever going to play in, okay? So I know the money was large, but the term is interesting. And I think that is something to pay attention to if you wonder if these contracts are going to lead to more of a competitive balance. So that's just one thing I want to throw in there as well. All right, on this side, you got a great hat. I love the Fredbird hat. What's your question?
Thank you.
Who is a lifelong Cardinal, a forever Cardinal. You bring all the things he brings. You know, this organization has been as good as any in keeping like our great players connected to, attached to the organization. You know, I've gotten to know Yadi a little bit. I don't know him nearly as well as you do or as a lot of people do, but I've gotten to know him a little bit. There's mutual desire there to have him help out, and that's something that hopefully we'll be able to do. We got to have him back in uniform a couple times, and it would be cool, certainly for him, but there's also other people we've talked about to have people come in and pop into spring training. I think especially when you're going through a time of change like we're going through, we can take for granted that a lot of these players who come into this organization, that they understand what it really means to put on that uniform, that they understand the history of this organization. They might not. Everybody comes from kind of a different place, different background. So to have people who not only can help them, with the X's and O's, or help them on the field, or help them, like I think with Yadi, just a little I've got to know, just the mindset that it takes to do some of the things that he did, to a championship mindset, the intensity that I got to see it, just from the outside. But you could see that. Like, that's a really special thing to try to impart on another player. And, what this organization means. So, that I've been in touch with him, and hopefully we'll be able to have him as a part of this. And, the value of that. That is, you talk about advantages that different organizations have. That's one of what we've got. That our past, our history, our legends were there.
Yes.
This is not something that in this organization, those people are just pictures on walls. They are people, they are part of us. And that's going to persist generation after generation. Obviously, time goes on. Unfortunately, we lose people, but then we have new ones, and we have people that can join us as alumni. That's been one of the most special things for me to see as a part of this organization, whether it's for a day, a week, or on a more full-time basis, as we have with a lot of our alumni. So it's definitely something that we're interested in doing.
I will say one thing about the Yadi thing. That was a very difficult position for one of our guests to be put in. When Ali Marmol doesn't know if he's going to be back when he takes over to the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, here's Yadi in uniform, right? Comes out, everyone gives a standing ovation. He's standing right next to the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. That was weird, bro. And you handled it. You handled it unbelievably. How did you handle this?
You do the right thing by the organization, and whether you know that talk radio and the Randys of the world they're going to run in a lot of different directions with it, but the reality is you have an incredible bright mind, baseball mind, and he has such a unique way of imparting that on a player. Like, he's not extremely vocal, but he does a really nice job of coming alongside a player in quiet moments, just being able to instill that competitive nature, that championship type of mindset. And I would be stupid not to have him come alongside of me to whatever degree is possible, and help our players. So you throw your ego aside. I give two damns about that, man. Like, you have to be able to do what's right for the player. And at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. And when you do it the right way, you win more games, and if that's what's going to help us win, then we do it.
Well, I love it, man. Let's go here. Your question, guy.
Yeah, I just, this is maybe for Ryan Bloom more than anybody. You come from the city of Boston, 5-6 million people, multiple championship pedigree sports teams, right, up in that area, to a city that lives and breathes one sport, one team, right? How does that change your mindset and your approach. I don't have 6 million people that can come to this ballpark, on any given day. I have 8 states that have a Cardinal base and a loyalty to the Cardinals, right? And it's just, we talked about the attendance at the ballpark, and you're talking about people that have to not just drive across town to get to a game, but travel with their families to truly get to this, to see these games. How does that change the pressure on you, your mindset and the approach to things, etc.? It's a wildly different atmosphere.
Interesting. Yeah, great question. I don't think it does change it, for me for a couple of reasons. One, I actually, this is a good thing. I see a lot of similarities in terms of fan engagement in the two places, like just in terms of how much people care. It's expressed differently perhaps in the Northeast than in the Midwest. And again, I say that as a Philadelphian, but you feel it in both places. Like Boston, yeah, it's amazing to have those other sports teams in town, but it feels like a baseball town. It feels like a baseball town when you're going great. It feels like a baseball town when you're not. And I also spent 15 years of my career in a place where we always really struggled to draw. And that was a different type of special, but it wasn't greater or lesser in terms of the experience. It was really, I think what we became good at there was being us and figuring out what are our advantages. How do we do this? How do we win? Yeah, like we talked about, it's different. You might have to operate differently, but it's just a different type of challenge. It made it really, really special in terms of like, this is going to be our thing that we do. And hopefully we can do it in such a way that more people will come, but it's going to be us. And it made you really keenly aware that at the end of the day, if there's not that much outside noise, you end up focusing on things that matter a lot, like your clubhouse, your teammates in the front office and the organization, and ownership, and getting everybody on the same page. And so then if you then go, as I did, to a market where it's really loud, you still realize those 3 things are really important also. You can't lose sight of them. And it's important, obviously, like we don't exist without you all. Like our fans are everything. That is what makes this business what it is. That said, sometimes the best way to bring to our fans what we're trying to bring is to sometimes tune out some of that stuff and just make sure we're focusing on making good baseball decisions, doing the right things. We lay out a roadmap. We got to keep doing the right things along that roadmap, one after the other, make the next right decision. And I don't think that changes that much depending on the market. I think really one big thing that I think is important, I think it's true of Boston, it's a great lesson, that I was able to process really after leaving that, I think is true here from what I can tell just being around here. And when you're in a baseball town, people are smart, they get it, and you're not pulling the wool over anybody's eyes. So just be honest as you can with them, and then allow your fans to hold you accountable to the same thing you hold yourself accountable to, which is building a good organization, keeping people aligned and making good baseball decisions. And when you do that, the game rewards you, and a lot of things will take care of themselves.
From your heart, as a Cardinal fan, you hear what you just said, isn't that great? I like that. Being honest, hold yourself accountable. All right,
It's part of what defined the Cardinal way was daily presence of franchise iconic players and leaders like Bob Gibson, Brock Betcheney, Mike Shannon, Bruce Sutter, Stan Musial, and even the great voice of the Cardinals, Jack Buck, who were ever present around the clubhouse and organization. Veteran and rookie players alike have talked about how meaningful it was to suddenly find themselves sitting next to and talking baseball, preparation, and expectations with those legends. With the passing of many of those personalities over the last 10 or 15 years, and the lack of recent Cardinal greats and future Hall of Fame players choosing not to stay in St. Louis community after baseball, you feel the loss of that constant living connection to Cardinal history that has changed how the Cardinal way is passed on to today's players. And if so, how does the organization work to perceive and reinforce that culture for current and future Cardinals?
very deep and good question. Yeah, and in a way, I'll say this to begin that, because I'm interested in what you think. The way Albert and Yachty and Waino were celebrated at the end of their careers is so powerful for the entire industry. All the other players watch it. All the other players of every other team see that. And when you celebrate your stars, when you bring them back in Albert's case, you never let them go in Waino and Yachty's case. Even when they're on fumes. Adam Wainwright, that 200th win, was one of the most incredible things I've ever watched. I've ever watched. Getting there was brutal. I'm sure it was brutal. But it's an organization, to your point, the Cardinal way, they love their stars. So here you are in a rebuild, and everyone with your question is essentially, when are we going to get back to the Cardinal way?
So I'll start with something just to build off of what you just said. The way we celebrated Wayno, Yachty, Albert there last year was, to your point, pretty darn special. Because I remember during that celebration, I came back into the dugout and a young player that's going to help us win a lot of games, and Mason Wynn. I remember having a conversation with him because he was able to view the whole thing later on. And there was, I won't say the name, but it was another pitcher. And the comments that the pitcher made to me during that celebration were incredible because it was basically, I'll simplify it, I want that one day. So to be able to view it is pretty impactful. We've had a lot of conversations, you can speak to it if you like, but around what does that look like moving forward in, someone else asked earlier, in inviting these players back during spring training in a meaningful way, not just hop in for a day, but where they're around the team, they're able to speak to the team, they're able to ingrain some of that wisdom into the young players, and having them come each for a week at a time and scheduling in a way that you can start to bring that back in an extremely meaningful way. So there's been a lot of conversation around that, and our hope is to be able to do that well.
Yeah, I hope it was apparent just from the answer to the question about Yachty that this is something we think intentionally about. You know, as a newcomer here, like I didn't get to meet all those folks you mentioned who have passed. I'm a kind of baseball history nerd, so I study it a lot. It's one of the cool things about being here, especially being engaged, as I was when I came here, a project on player development with St. Louis Cardinals, that this organization invented a farm system. Like, that's pretty cool. But having said that I didn't get to meet those folks, I did not feel like it was disconnected or like it's dead, because we have some of these folks still around and still with us, whether they come for a day or a week or whether they're on our staff, like people who have been a part of this, who are very generous with their time and their wisdom and who lead for this organization, and they're still a part of this behind the scenes. Now, as far as like who is going to carry that torch, well, that's our job in baseball operations. Both who are those players, obviously how are we going to develop them so that on field they can reach their physical ceiling, and then culturally, how do we create that understanding of what this needs to be about? So all those things are a part of it. And in terms of who those players are, like that's why we're doing all the things we're doing, all the stuff you hear about building up the infrastructure of the organization. And believe me, like the effort there, the investments in it, those are real. Like you're not going to see most of them. You're going to see them if and when we succeed, and the fruits of that labor are out there, because we're going to be pumping out good players. But that's why we put so much energy into that, because when you look at the history of that here, but really in most organizations, usually those players, you built them, or you helped them build themselves. You didn't go out and buy in retail. Yeah, you might be able to add a piece here or there, but this organization has never won that way. And it's always won by having that awesome pipeline. But it takes the table stakes for what it means to have that now, in terms of the amount of energy and effort and resources behind the scenes that organizations have been pouring into that. Even just in the relatively short time that I've been in baseball, even in the last 10 years of my career, it's changed so much, and that's where we're pouring a lot of energy. That's a lot of what my day-to-day is making sure that build-up goes well, because that is going to, if we do it well, that is going to lead to more of those, us producing more of those players. And then the cultural stuff kicks in terms of helping them understand what this is about, so that they can meet us the right way, and so that they want to stay here. But in terms of producing talent, like that's what I get up thinking about and go to bed thinking about, because that is everything to this organization.
Yeah, and as a fan, I'm wondering who will be part of the core. So what's the first step in that process? That's who gets the first contract extension of all these young players. Who's the guy that you're like? Because in my opinion, I think the Baltimore Orioles screwed up. The Orioles needed to lock up their young core. They didn't do it. And they have a rich tradition there, and they want the next Cal Ripken. That should be Gunnar Henderson. Star player. Now, if cat's out of the bag, it's not going to happen. So I think the Cardinal way, you want to buy a jersey. It's the Cardinal way. You want to have the Pools jersey on. You want the iconic player. That's what you're looking for. And he has to make the decision as to which one of those players is the first to get that contract extension, and then the second one. Am I right? That's kind of what we're talking about. So we're maybe a year away from that first step in the process of Cardinal Way. That's a great question.
We say often, and the two things that I like to live by are honesty and curiosity. And I'll give you the first one with honesty. It's my ability to have a conversation that needs to be had, but also carry myself in a way where whether you're a player or staff member, if you see something that isn't in line with what we're trying to do as a club, then you feel comfortable enough coming to me and calling me out as well. So the honesty part is super important, but when you talk about buying, man, I would be naive to think that these guys don't have goals for themselves, right? So one of the things I like to do with our players, whether they've been in the league for 20 years or been in the league for 2 minutes, is bring them into the office and ask them, like, what do you want for yourself? Not for the team, I know what you're going to tell me there, but what do you want for yourself? And sometimes they give you a generic answer and you kind of got to double click on it and get a little deeper with them and force them to be a little bit more vulnerable, but like truly, what do you want for yourself? And once they can clearly articulate that, you ask them if you can hold them accountable to that, right? Like, can I hold you to that? And everyone says yes. And then you ask them what you want for the team, and you go through that exercise, and can I hold you to that? And what it does when you talk about buying, it removes it from being personal. So when it's June and they're doing something that doesn't align with getting them to where they want to get to individually or get the club to where we want to get collectively, then you get to say, hey, listen, you gave me permission to hold you to this, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And it doesn't become personal, it's just, I want what's best for you. And that's the best, as a manager, that's the best thing I can do for you and your family, and in return, that's the best thing for our club. So you get buy-in when you care about them as people. They're going to do what they do on the field, and you're looking to improve that on a daily basis, but they really want to make sure that you care about them as people and you care about their families, and when you do that, and you make enough of those deposit hands, then you get buy-in, but that's how I try to do it.
Awesome. It's really good. It's awesome. First question. All right, Cardinal Cowboy, go right ahead.
All right, so the Cardinals, first time, good to see you again. Alan, good to see you again. Greg, thanks for putting this together. This is really cool. Cardinals, the last 29 teams to win the World Series, the last 29 years, 20 of those teams have won top 10 payroll. Cardinals are number 22 right now. They usually hover around 12 or 13. The philosophy that of those 9 teams that won it, 2 times it was the Cardinals, 2006, 2013. It's 22% of the time. Do you think the Cardinals are going to bump that payroll and about that same, let's make it to the playoffs? A lot of people lose the fact that the Cardinals were close to being in the playoffs both the last 2 years. And just is it no matter just getting to the playoffs and who gets hot, because the last 2 times we won it, we came as wild cards. And what will be the strategy that's going to get us another one of these? Because my fans, my buddies keep asking me, when are we going to get one of these? I said, hey, Gary, I'm going to put it out there for you guys. Tell me what the answer is, guys.
Thank you, Cardinal Cowboy.
Oh, it's
You're going to come up on the set. That would be that way.
It'll be on first. It'll be on Hinge, but that would definitely be on my mind. And it is something, look, it's not a secret as an organization. Obviously, we're going through some stuff right now, right? Some of the stuff we do control, some of the stuff we don't control in terms of just the circumstances that we're in. But I know that, the track record of our bosses is such that they've always invested back in the product, and I know just from conversations that we had about where is this going long term, and obviously we do need to do the hard work to get out of this spot, and that's on us, right? That's on us, because I know, again, I appreciate what you say, but I know that place is going to be packed when we have a team that people want to come out and see, because it's an exciting team that wins. And so that's a big determinant for that, but I know that is going to start this thing rolling back in the right direction. And for now, a lot of those resources are going. When I came in, one of the things, I think it's something that I feel like a lot of people in the industry would have thought this, that probably the place that was most underinvested, if you were going to pick a place, would have been a lot of the stuff behind the scenes that leads to that winning, that fuels that engine. To me, I basically felt, and I said this to Bill Jr. and Bill III when I was basically doing my consulting work in 24 and laying out what I thought the organization should do in player development and performance. Like, I I think one of the reasons that the DeWitts are so admired in baseball circles is because of the consistency with which they have run the organization in terms of understanding the identity of the organization and how it has to win. And my view of this is that basic operating model of the organization to build from within and to build through elite talent acquisition and development, that model still works. I felt from the outside that the engine kind of needed to be refurbished in order to get things going in the right way. So from my view, like, that's what we have to do. And they've backed us in a lot of the things that we've asked for that you don't see to, and you know, I believe and have confidence that they will continue to do that even during some of the economic times that we might be going through, so that we can get that rolling in the right way and get that snowball rolling back up the hill to where we can continually reinvest more and more in the product. So that's our job, is to make sure that gets rolling in the right way. But you know, I think the track record is such that I think that we need it.
Final question of the night from me, and then you'll each ask me one question. So you think about that for a second. So based on what you just said, Cardinal Cowboy, in terms of salary and where they were ranked, this is Range Carrier's question, by the way. It looks like you're only acquiring controllable arms with swing miss. All the trades you've made, it looks like you're branding the Cardinals as a pitching-heavy organization. If slug, exit velo, launch angle, on base, the slugging style of baseball is what everyone's going towards, and that costs money. Supply and demand, that's what you have to pay for, right? Like Gunnar Henderson isn't going to stay in Baltimore. It's an $800 million contract. So if that's what everybody wants, why not, if you're going to go pitching heavy, move the wall back and bring back 1980s Cardinal baseball? Vince Coleman, Tommy Herr, Ozzie Smith, Willie McGee, all these guys could run. They could all defend. All the pitchers were pitchers. John Tudor's not trying to strike out 21 in a game. Why not?
I like the way you think.
Oh, it's not me. That's not. I literally just that's a script he wrote for me.
Okay. I will say, Randy, when we talk about resource allocation, I think there are more pressing things for our infrastructure than you know, screwing around with the outfield walls right now.
Hey, it worked for Baltimore. I gotta
So
tell you.
those first.
It worked for Baltimore. Michael Ice hates when I bring that up. We moved it back in and they start giving up homers again.
I actually think, Randy, you're giving us a little too much credit. Like, yeah, it is true that obviously it so happens that a lot of the guys we've acquired have been pitchers. They're important. They have the baseball, but it's not all we're going to look to acquire. It's just we were, especially in those trade returns, we were chasing after the best talent we could get. Certainly, in terms of some of the pitchers that we brought in to help our rotation depth, that was something that we had to do. So it's nice to be able to cover those in some deals that also help our future. But some of those guys are not, you know, there's some guys that aren't necessarily defined by their ability to miss bats. In fact, with some of these guys, like, we like the depth of their repertoires, and we need to get them to the point where they do miss more bats, and that's probably what's going to be the difference between them being, you know, guys who maybe bounce around between roles and can stick as starters. But there's no question, like, we want to be able to appreciate all types of talent. The Cardinals should not just be about one type of pitcher. We should be able to appreciate all the good ones that get outs and all the good ones that prevent runs, and a huge component of that right now is power stuff that can create whiff in the zone. That's just a biggie. You look at winning teams, that's what they do. So we have to make sure we're covering that, but it's certainly not the only thing they care about.
Excellent. Great question, Randy. All right. Ali, you have a question for me first thing about it?
Can you tell the audience a little bit about, if I see on TV, it seems like a cool job. Just talks baseball every day.
Yeah.
But the sacrifices and the things you've had to give up in order to do that on a daily basis when it comes to the sacrifice of like family and time and all of that.
Wow. It's a better question for my wife. You know, I come home at 1 o'clock in the morning for 16 years during the summer. I only get 1 week of vacation in the summer. I know it feels bad for me because I do have a great life and I do a great job. But in terms of a normal, average family life, that is a hard thing for my kids and for my wife. So this year was the first year I went to the early show, the national pregame show, 5 to 7, and it was transformative. And having dinner every night, dinners were like the biggest thing ever for me because I only got 2 of them a night. So to have dinner every night with my family, it has just been unbelievable. My son doesn't know what to do with me because he's looking at me at the dinner table for the first time in his life. and it's weird, but it has been a commitment to what I do, and I love the game so much, so I missed a lot of recitals. I get it, but it's worth it. At the end of the day, I provide a great life for my family, and it's worth it. All right, Tom, you got a question for me?
Yeah, this one now, after hearing Ollie's question, I feel like this one's probably a little more selfish than it is, but
I'm in. Let's go.
I'm curious, you know, this has been a little more kind of looser, more casual, but you do a lot of these in your day job. You get a lot of opportunities to put a headset on people like us.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, what do you wish you could get differently out of this encounter?
Oh, wow, great.
Within the bounds of what's actually realistic.
What I wish is I wish you guys knew who you were dealing with. Because you can't give me a canned answer. You know I'm going to come back at you and irritate you. So if you're dealing with it, I'm not going to.
You can. I have.
You've given me many canned answers. I get it, but I'm going to press. And I had a GM from the Detroit Tigers on my show. Did you see this? When
I just thought it was funny. Like a GM who shall remain nameless from the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, really nice kid. Really nice kid. I go, fans in Detroit want to know, are you trading him? Is that the #1 priority, or are you trying to win right now in the Tarek Skubal era? You have 1 year left at Tarek Skubal. And he said, it's not about Tarek Skubal. We got over 20 other great players. And I go, stop. I cut him off. This is a generational pitcher. This is one of the biggest moments of your young career. So they just want to know, what's the #1 priority? Is it to find the best package for him, or is it to win with him? And I saw his face get really red, and he clearly was not happy with me. And I pressed him on it. And if you're going to be on with me, if you just, like, you handled the Nolan Arenado topic off the jump beautifully. You sparred a little bit with me, really, this is where we're going to start. We're going to start right here, Greg? Yes, this is where we're going to start.
I don't remember anything I said.
Yeah, but it was good. You were honest. I guess the best way to put it is, it's okay if you say to us, you know I can't go any further than that. But you're honest up until whatever that point is. Just like you said, I have to stop earlier. I have to stop. Just tell me to stop. I can't say anymore. But what I can't say is this. You know what I'm saying? Because the canned answers are just like, oh man, the worst. But this was, did you guys enjoy this tonight? I can't thank the two of you enough. I really cannot. This means the world to me that you came to our beautiful campus, and I want to make this an annual thing, honestly, where people here, people come and explore the Cardinals. And we got to take tons of photos of this event tonight, and we're going to put this all over social media, and I want other Cardinal fans to be like, damn, I missed out on a fun night at Lindenwood. Damn. And then build some synergy for this, because I want to be part of getting this fan base fired up for Cardinal baseball. And you two guys, getting them to know you the way they did tonight, this is only going to help that. Okay, so Ollie, Heim, thank you very much. One more thing. So we're going to stand up, you can cheer for us and all that jazz. And that'll end the night. And then I want the Lindenwood baseball team to come up on the stage and then take a picture with the three of us, okay? So someone get a camera in the back. Let's bring the Lindenwood baseball